Hi, Jackie. So it looks like you got a nice horse. He's a pretty Tennessee walking horse. What I would recommend when you're riding him, you're just slow walking here, but you're trying to keep proper position to help him to be more balanced. In here, we're in a little bit of a chair seat. So I would recommend you sit up a little bit taller if possible, because we all have joints that hurt. And to tilt just a tiny bit forward more on your pelvis instead of sitting too deep in the saddle, and then try to bring this leg back underneath you. Some of the saddles will push you into this chair seat position, and so you want to check when the stirrup hangs down the saddle. If it's hanging right at the girth or in front of the girth, a lot of the stirrups, which people don't know, you can slide back on the bar, and that'll help you to get your leg back underneath you. So I would kind of have your shoulder here down to your hip and then your heel underneath it. So we want to try and bring that leg back further to help you with the position. And then with your hands here, you're trying to keep a straight line from the bit up to your elbow. And you want your hands, because a lot of people don't know how to properly hold our hands, to be on like a 45-degree angle. It's kind of imitating their wither. So it's kind of like there's a triangle here, and your hands are on the side of the triangle. So they'll be tilted in about 45 degrees. And here again, we're trying to get a straight line from the bit up to your elbow. It's not too bad, but I'd have your hand just a little bit higher and more in instead of so wide. As he's walking here, he's a little strung out. You know, it's a nice, relaxed, calm walk, but with walking horses over time, if you tend to walk like that, some of these horses are so calm that they'll start falling asleep, and then they'll actually start tripping. So I don't know if that's how you're riding him once you're going faster, or this is just how you're riding him at a walk. But I would tend to hold him together a little bit more and frame him up. So just a little bit more contact on the rein. And then later on, of course, you can ride him like this. But we want to make sure in the beginning he knows his job and he's getting his hindquarters underneath him and driving with that back end, because some of these horses will tend to get heavy on their front end, and then if they trip, they tend to fall over. So we're always trying to keep their hindquarter underneath them and keeping them light on that front end. And with him, I'd ride him kind of right in between your legs. Pick a line to follow with your eyes, because otherwise the horses tend to wobble back and forth. So you want to pick a line for them to follow, especially when you're a big open area like this. And then make sure he's traveling in a straight line and he's pushing off of that hind quarter as you're going. So here you're coming again. Again, I would have that hand just a little bit higher, more contact. And it can be a light contact, but you're trying to have more contact than you're having, just because I know walking horses so well, and it does depend on the horse. Some of them are very sure-footed and never ever trip, and other ones, as soon as they're out of training and people riding them fast, they start falling asleep and tripping. So we got to be careful with that. Here he's kind of just wandering down the trail, and he is wobbling back and forth a little bit. So you're trying to keep him right in between your hands and legs. Have those hands up a little bit higher, just an inch or two, and a little bit more contact. Bring that leg back underneath you, and then you're going to try to kind of alternate your legs as he's walking to see if you can get him reaching even more up underneath himself. But you see how he's kind of wobbling back and forth there? He just doesn't know what to do. And some walking horses are not great at walking in straight lines, so we have to help them by picturing a line and then making the horse follow it, and then not letting them look around. That's a good way for them to start tripping, because they're looking at the scenery and not where they're going, or they're looking at things to spook at. So you want to keep their head straight, have some more contact on that rein so the rein is straight, so he knows you're up there in the beginning. When he looks to the right, give a little half halt on your left rein, a little squeeze and relax. If he looks to the left, then a squeeze and relax on that right rein to keep his attention with you. Okay, so here you're starting to try and get some speed. Now, part of the problem is he cannot feel your legs so well because where it is right where the girth is. So when you're squeezing in, he's not going to feel it so much because you're pushing against that girth, okay? So we do got to try to get that leg back farther so he can feel it, so against his flank here instead of it being right on the girth. So when you're riding and you're trying to check your own leg position, one of the easiest things to do is look down past your knee, and if you can see your foot, which you can right here, then the leg's too far forward. You want to make sure when you look down past your knee, you cannot see your foot, because if your foot's back here, you won't be able to see it. The other thing, if he is still not going faster when you're asking, and you should be squeezing with your calves, kind of like you have a ball between your legs, you want to squeeze in, and if that doesn't work, you can turn your toe out, kind of like a frog or like a duck, and raise your heel up against his side. You don't want to kick him because that can make him skip gates, but you can dig your heel into him and that'll add even more pressure. If that's not working, then you either want to carry a stick or you can wear some dull spurs or you can do both. But by not getting after him when he's not responding, again, what'll happen over time is they become lazier and lazier. All the training starts to come off, and many times these horses will start to get strung out and then they'll start to get trippy. So we got to get your leg underneath, push to go, and then once you push to go, you want to keep that rein shorter. You want to have that rein so your hands are about 4 inches or so in front of that saddle. You can always push your arms forward when he's being good to give him a release, but he needs a little bit more contact, and we want to try to frame him up more. In other words, we want to try and get a little arch in his neck and tuck his nose in slightly, and that'll help for him to drive with that back end and get a little bit more head shaking going on. But as he's going here, he gets a little strung out, and then you get him going for a little bit, but he starts going towards a pace. So you're going to watch your terrain because that really affects the gaited horses. And anytime it's going downhill, like it looks like it's going downhill now, if you ask for speed, many of them will get pacey. So you only want to ask for speed when it's completely flat or it's going uphill. You don't want to ask for speed downhill unless the horse is breaking into a trot. And on the turns, when you go to make a turn, what you want to do to help the horse get around the turn balanced, because of course we want them balanced so they carry us better and they don't trip. You want to lean back a little bit when you go to make the turn, and then you want to half halt every step, and that just means squeeze and relax on the reins with both hands as you're turning him, because that's kind of tapping on the brakes, and what it'll do is help you to lighten the front end and get his back end underneath him more. So what I would do is lean back, and then I would half halt, relax, half halt, relax, half halt, relax, half halt, relax, half halt, relax. I would still keep him slow because he's picking up speed there, and he was going downhill, which again will set you up for a pace. And if they start pacing because you went downhill and then you go uphill right afterwards, because then they're in that footfall of the pace, they will just stay in the pace and go uphill and then usually go into a step pace. So you want to go slow around the turn, slow down the hill, and then when you get to about here or so, that's when you can start pushing and asking him for more speed. But you'll see your hands are very soft, but you have this big loop in the rein, and that's not helping him at this point because he's a little strung out. So again, bring your hands in a little bit closer together. Turn them so they're on a 45-degree angle, kind of like the sides of a triangle or how his wither is shaped. And then you're going to bend that elbow and have a little bit more contact on him just to help him. But there, even though you're being very kind with your hands, these horses are not like quarter horses. And without much contact, they can get very heavy on their front end. And they can also get very strung out, and we don't want that. But even as he's walking away, he kind of wobbles. He's not walking in a straight line. So I would work on straight lines, helping him around the turn by half halting, sitting back, and then keeping more contact on the rein. You don't have to pull hard, but you want a little bit more of a straight line with that rein at this point in time till we get him engaging more and using himself. And there, as you're sitting, I'm going to go back a little bit. It's not bad, but you're getting a little bit behind the motion, and then that leg's out in front of you. So you want to sit up taller, almost like someone has a string from the top of your head, and they're pulling it up towards the sky. And you could tilt just a tiny bit more forward. I mean, it's nice that you sit back, because most people tilt forward, but you're the opposite. You're a little bit behind the motion. So you want to sit up taller. You could tilt your upper body just a couple of inches more forward and then try to keep that leg back behind you. So there, he's not doing the best gait. He's starting to get strung out there. He tripped because he's just not paying a whole bunch of attention there. And the footing raised up, and a lot of these horses tend to keep their feet low to the ground. So if they're not engaging themselves, driving with that back end and light on their front ends, then they can drag their feet more and they get even more trippy. So again, I'd keep him kind of in between your hands and your legs, a little bit more pressure on the reins, go slower down the hill, and then you can start pushing them as you're going up the hill. And I'll send you some other videos to look at, but we need to kind of get his head down, get him more on the bit, and then drive him. Okay, so I think this was the last one with you. So this horse's talent, I can see it. I can see the way he's moving. He's not a hard pacing horse, but he is a horse that has to be ridden with more semi-collection, more contact, and pushing off of his back end. So again, to do that, we got to get a better body position with you, but then we might have to hold that rein a little bit with more contact in the beginning. Like his head set is nice. It's just he's too long through the body. So in other words, he's strung out, and we got to collect him some to shorten up his body position. And then it's going to give you a much better gait and a safer gait because he won't be so strung out. So we might have to do a live lesson so I can give you more right at the time as you're doing it, or you tell me how much this video helped you, if it's going to make a big enough difference or not. But what I would do with him is work on, you know, if you can, I'd work on circles. I would work on leg yielding. I would get better bending. And also, like there, he looked pretty good given to the bit. So I think he knows how to do it. It's just getting you guys in connection with him and understanding and not letting him look around. But these horses, again, go much better with some semi-collection and driving him forward. Like he might look weird there as he's going down, but it's because he's going towards a pace, and they always look kind of lame as they're doing that. The other thing with him, if I can get it up here, is he does have a little bit of a long pastern, so you just want to keep an eye on that as he gets older. You'll see with the front legs, he comes down a little bit. And in the back ones as well. So when I'm talking about the pastern, I'm talking about this area here. Now, some horses, they're long in the pasterns and they come down like this, and they'll go through their whole life and never ever have a problem. But some horses don't. They start to have problems with their suspensories back here and up in the front. And they will usually start to have intermittent lameness if that happens, or they'll start to get really, really trippy. So it's something you just want your vet to look at now while he's young and to keep an eye on it. So if he starts to have a problem, they'll see a difference, or you can take a picture with how he's standing. So if you need to compare something later on. And it's just some insight. Again, I'm not saying he has a problem, because a lot of the walking horses are bred to come down in their pasterns more, but it's something you just want to keep an eye on. So if he does have anything in the future going on, you'll know, what to tell the vet. And if the vet's already aware, they'll be very helpful with it. Okay, so now we'll go on to your other horse. Okay, so this is your other little guy. He is smaller than the other horse, but very cute. So both horses are very pretty. Now, your husband's position is a little bit better than yours. He's probably going to be happy that I said that, because it's always a competition between couples, right? So shoulders over his hip, and he's got his leg back more, but he's holding it back. So his saddle might also be pushing his leg forward, but he's trying to get it back underneath him. So again, shoulder over your hip and heel underneath your hip is how we ride the most balanced. His hands aren't bad, but we're trying to keep a straight line from the bit up to the elbow. So his hands are just a little high, and I'm being picky because I'm giving you lessons. So just a couple of inches. Now you said this horse was more spooky. When you have a spooky horse, there's several things you should do. So one, you work them before you ride them. So you make sure you lunge them, and you lunge them for a fair amount of time. It's not making them speed up the whole time. It's just getting their attention and getting them thinking. So with a young horse and one that's spooky, I would lunge it at least 10 minutes. And I would keep it moving most of the time, changing directions like every 3 circles, like I say in my videos, because it helps to get their attention quicker versus you just lunge around 10 minutes in the same direction. So I would lunge them, 3 circles, turn them, 3 circles the other way. Now, when you're lunging or round pending, it doesn't matter if they're gaiting, trotting, cantering, whatever they're doing, as long as you're moving them around to wear some energy out. But as you do it, you do have to be careful that you're not spooking the horse or just chasing it. You move it some and then you relax and let it move around. And if that doesn't make sense, you just let me know. Okay. After you do that, you want to do a lot of desensitizing with this horse. And I'm going to send you a video on that. So that's when you have the horse stand still and you move things around it to get it used to just standing still and being calm. And what it teaches the horse to do, if you do it correctly, is it teaches them that when things are scaring them, the way to get the things to go away is to stay still and be calm. And it's one of the best things to do with spooky horses. But you have to do it with lots of things. You start with the rope and you get them good with the rope. And again, I'm going to show you that in a video. And then you use random things like noodles, bags, flags, anything you can find that he starts getting scared of. Okay. So with young horses, a lot of times they haven't had mileage on them, so you have to put those good miles on. So lunging first, desensitizing for at least 10 to 20 minutes. So there's going to be a lot of preparation, but it'll make your horse much calmer. And then riding him. But when you're riding him, again, his body position's good, but we want to have more contact on that rein. Because any horse that is spooky, you want to make sure he knows you're up there. So you want to have a straight line from the bit up to your hand. And then when he's looking around, you just half halt or kind of bump on the opposite rein. So if he looks left, you squeeze and relax with your right hand. If he looks to the right, you squeeze and relax with your left hand. So you get that horse to carry his head straight. And the more we get him to bring his head down, we'll also relax. So I'm going to give you a video on that. Sorry, it keeps darkening here. So we want to keep contact, make sure he's with us. And then as he's riding him around, I'm going to turn off the sound. He's doing the same thing as the other horse, just kind of wobbling around a little bit. And walking horses tend to do that. They're not very straight and stiff like quarter horses. They're very lanky, loose, and tend to wobble more. The old school Tennessee walking horses aren't like that as much, but the World Grand Champions tend to be very wobbly. So he should lean back and half halt around the turn, like I was saying to you, just half halt with each step until you get it. And then hold him straight, have more contact as he starts to go faster will help. Because this horse is more pacey than the other horse. He also comes way down in his pastern, so I'd have the vet look at both of these horses. And you got to make sure you have a good trimmer to work with you. It might even want you to have shoes on them if they don't have shoes, just to give them more support. So get his opinion on what to do. So there, he's not too bad around the turn, but you want to make sure he's focused. And again, a couple things to get him focused. There he's looking off to the side, is keep straightening his head. We'll get his head down more, and then wearing him out some more ahead of time so he's well prepared for work and not reacting. And then if he keeps looking around, to either serpentine or to leg yield and give him some kind of job to occupy his mind, because the horse can only have so many things he's thinking of. And if you're giving him harder jobs to do, he's got to pay attention to the jobs. But if he has no job except just walking straight, then they start to look around and get a little bit more goofy. So you got to do more preparation with this horse, and you could try some of the calming supplements. Don't feed him alfalfa because that can be like crack for some horses. Here he's pacey, so he's swinging both those legs on the same side. So here as he's coming faster, like he's looking around, his head is up. That will bring anxiety up, and when their head is up and their back's inverted like this, that will make him pacey. So we got to get his head down and his neck and back relaxed and more rounded. And here the reins are too long. So again, the hands should be up here in front of the horn or in front of the saddle. So these reins should be about 6 or 8 inches shorter, a lot shorter. And he has long arms, so that won't be a problem. But right here, they're too long. So when he starts to act up, it's not helping as much. If he had a shorter rein, he'd have better control. But there he's just pacing and he's inverted. So this horse should have a flat walk and a running walk, so he's skipping over those. And both of the horses in time could have a saddle gait and a rack, but when they're going to the pace, that means they're skipping over all of those gaits. So he's pacing there, and then he gets scared. So there, see, he kind of shot forward and to the left, so something was off to the right. So he's looking off to the right, and he's like, see, I told you I should be scared. I finally found something to spook at. So he looks over there, and then see, he goes, ah, uh-oh, and he wants to take off to the left to get away from it. So that's normal horse behavior, but the thing is, we got to keep him paying attention so he doesn't do things like that, and be aware. You know, when you're riding young horses, the hard part for beginners or newbies or people who haven't had young horses is you really have to be proactive. So you keep the horse's head down and straight, give him jobs to do, but you have to keep looking for danger. And if you see something like, oh, he might get scared with that, there's a bag blowing around, you have to make a decision like, should I go up there or should I go somewhere else? I need to get his attention. Maybe I'll serpentine up there or leg yield and start giving him jobs. And then once they spook, I take them right back over to where the object was, because in time, then they start learning that if they spook, you're going to bring them even closer to the object, you know, and if they don't spook, you just walk by it. So every time he spooks, I mean, I would have backed him up, turned him to the right, and then pushed him over and went right up to that object. If I have to get off to get up to it, I will. And then I might go over there and ride them around it a whole bunch of times each direction until they're so tired of that object they don't care anymore and they're not spooking anymore. But when they do things like this and they get away with it and they feel that you're not there helping them, they start to get spookier every day, because then they don't have any trust. They're like, you don't know what you're doing, and I'm going to run because you're scaring me, and I'm just going to get us out of trouble. And so they take over. So you really have to get that groundwork good. You have to get the desensitizing good, and then we got to ride them correctly. Okay, so this video is not long at all, but it does demonstrate how the horse isn't listening to him enough and how loose his reins are. So he's got to have those reins much shorter. And I see he has some spurs on, which is probably helping him to get him to go. But you kind of have to hold them right in between your hands and legs like it's a ball, and you don't want that ball wobbling all over the place. So we have to keep more contact on him and keep his head down. And then when he's doing stuff like he's nervous or scared or he doesn't want to go forward, you got to take a hold of him, and so they know you're there. It makes me think of like when you're going to cross the street with a little kid and you take their hand and you're like, come on, we're going now. Come on, we got to go now before another car comes. So you grab their hand and you just hold it firmly, not too tight. Hold it firmly, and you take them with them and you show them what to do. So that's what you want to do with this horse, is take a hold of those reins, get his head down, and when he gets nervous, yes, talk to him, breathe. That's a good thing. Tell him he's going to be okay, but take a hold of him. Push that leg on him and get him to believe you, because there the reins are too long, the hand's way too high. You always want to pull it back towards the top of the hip. And again, these are normal mistakes we all make in the beginning, but it's making that horse think he's on his own, that he's got no one to help him. And you can see in his face, he's like, what is going on? What should I do? So we got to build up his trust, desensitize him, and start getting some mileage on him and getting him more confident, because here he's not confident at all. He needs you to get after him a little bit more, you know, either use the spur or a stick or bump him with your legs more and get him to believe you. And it's hard. Everybody's trying to be nice to them, but when they need our help, we have to be there, and we have to be there quick to instill confidence in them instead of fear. Now, this last one is him just walking away. So I can't see much except that he does ring a little bit in his left hock. And I have videos on that, but that's just a conformational thing, and it is in some of the lines of the walking horses, okay? But at least he's traveling in a straight line there. Okay, so let me give you a little summary on what I would do with these horses. So when you're riding out, since this horse is calm and it seems to have more experience on him, I would have this horse lead and have the other horse behind you, okay? Make sure both horses are worked and have some energy off by lunging or round pending before you go. If this horse is not spooky or anything like that, then this one you don't have to do much desensitizing with, but the other one I would do a lot of desensitizing with before you get on. So lunge that horse first and desensitize after. You want the desensitizing to be the last thing. When you guys go out on the trail, have more contact, sit up tall with your legs underneath you, and try to ride out with a forward walk. So this was just your slow trail walk. We don't want to pace, we just want a fast walk. You want to walk out fast, so you use some of their energy up as you're going out. When you're out there, stay in the moment with your horse. Pay attention to what's going on all around. Don't let the horses look, but you be aware of what's going on, and then keep their heads straight and keeping them pay attention to you. When you guys go uphill, you can walk a little faster. When you go downhill, slow way down and do a very slow walk and half halt with each step you're going downhill to keep both of these horses balanced and keeping them from getting strung out, okay? And for now, I would just stay at your flat walk and not go any faster until we get these other things done. If you can work in an arena, then I would get in an arena and teach both these horses all the basic things that are in my arena routine. So that means to lateral flexion, vertical flexion, walking circles and patterns and bending and being able to do a serpentine, a leg yield, and things of that nature, and having a good stop and a backup. Because you want to build trust in these horses, and you guys want to get your skills better. And it's always more dangerous being out on the trail where there's no fences to hold you in, because the horses can pick up more speed and take off and drag you and do all sorts of stuff. So it's best to get in an arena and get those skills up before we get out on that trail, okay? But again, if you're going to trail ride, that's what I would do, is I would keep that other horse behind you and go single file. If you ride next to each other, then neither horse is the leader. And if something jumps out, he might not spook, but the other horse might spin. So he's going to be much better being behind and getting the miles on him behind a braver horse, okay? And then you just got to slowly go out trying to build up their confidence. If that horse is really horrible on the trail, then I would hand walk it behind that other horse and hand walk it and just get the miles on it so he becomes more confident. But again, if they're getting more spooky, it means we're either feeding them more sugar, we're not getting enough energy off before you ride them, you're probably not riding them as hard as the previous people were, and you're probably not as confident, and that's why he's getting spookier, because now he's untrusting. He's like, bad things keep happening and nobody's telling me what to do, so I don't know what to do. So you want to build up that confidence slowly, and then again, over time, he will get better. But each horse has their own personality, and some are braver and some are spookier. It's just the way they go. And they call these horses the lead horses and the spooky horses the follower horses. So the follower horses do good with brave people, and the brave horses do good with pretty much anybody, okay? So you now know what kind of horses you have and what you have to do to work and make them better. But I'll attach videos, and then if you have any questions, you just let me know.